manages to stay with us because it's kind of warm in San Francisco today. So we're going to continue working on useAuth, the authentication library I built for adding authentication to any React app. And we're going to keep refactoring it to using XState. After the stream last week, I figured out how to successfully access context and how to write tests for XState and this sort of stuff. So we're going to go from there and probably finish. We might actually get to finish today in the next 45 minutes or so. So say hi in the chat room if you're there, and I'm going to keep talking as I go through things. Where we left off last week was so we were replacing the auth reducer with a auth state machine from XState. We're going to continue doing that. We got the authenticating state to call a start authenticating action and a stop authenticating action side effect. I don't know what the best way of calling these things is. But if you look at the actual actions, I guess they're called actions. Start authenticating sets is authenticating to true, and is the other one sets it to false, which seems kind of redundant because we're in the authenticating state anyway. Hey Sam. So, but it was a good way to try context and to figure out how to deal with application state inside an XState state machine. So we're going to continue with these tests here, and I'm gonna, let's see, we're going to make sure that all the other properties are preserved. Actually, we don't need that, but we do need one to test that is authenticating state goes to false. So it changes is authenticating to true, it changes is authenticating to false, and we're going to later use that as a return value from the useAuth function or hook. So I'm going to add a describe only there. We're going to say is authenticating is true. On transition state, we're going to say state is logout, and auth state start. We're gonna need to put this in a specific state, won't we? Let's do it this way. We're gonna say const state is auth state dot start with context. I think we can say with context. Let's check that in the XState docs. And let's see what's up with the chat room. I don't know if the chat room is actually working. So I'm going to look into the XState docs and see how we can specify a context when we instantiate a new machine. I think there's a with context, initial context. There we go. So we say counter machine, and then there's a with context function here. For existing machines, we say counter machine with context something. There we go. So we take the auth state, which comes from where are we defining that? Auth state is a machine. Great. That comes from auth reducer. Where was I? Auth state, we say with context is authenticating as false, like that. And then I think that no. Property with context does not exist on the machine. Why? So counter machine is a machine, but what we're exporting from the reducer is an interpreted machine. So what we gotta do is export the machine as well. Go back here. No, auth reducer. Where are you? Oh yeah, that's the right spec. We're going to get the auth machine as well. And then I think what I can do here is say auth machine with context is authenticating, and it's saying that that's not a type that actually exists. So we're going to add, let's do it like this. We're going to take the context and we're going to say is authenticating is false, right? Come on, computer, work. And then we gotta define the context here. Const context equals all of this stuff. Bam. Okay, uncomment that. And now what's it complaining about? Okay, so that's working. No, it's not. Argument of type is authenticating false is not assignable to parameter of type auth state. Is missing the following properties. What? Oh, come on, state. Context as auth state. Okay, no. So here TypeScript is being annoying and is not letting us do perfectly valid things. Why does it not understand that this is... All right, let's try that. What if we assign... Oh, that's why, because I'm overriding context. So context, and then we say is authenticating is set to false explicitly. Great. And then how do we start that machine? So then we say state is an interpret of that. And we say start, right? An interpret needs to come from XState. So we go up here and we import that. Import interpret from XState like that. And now I should be able to run this test again. Yay. So on transition, we're going to store the specific context we have. So we say let saved context equals blah. And we're going to say saved context becomes the state context. We run the login action, and this test should now pass. Let's verify that the test passes. Come on. Also, writing tests for XState turns out to be really frustrating because you have to get things into just the right state and use all of the state transitions, which in a way, that's exactly what XState is for. It's supposed to make it difficult to go into invalid states and to do weird things with your state. But at the same time, it makes it really annoying to write unit tests. And you see, now now the test isn't passing. Hey, Alash, but how are you doing today? Okay, so now what is complaining about? Parameter state implicitly has an any. Okay, why does it have an any? And why is that a problem? Test suite failed to run. Oh, because now this has a problem. Okay, I'm going to comment you out so that I can run the other test. Make sure that the way I'm testing XState actually works. And if anyone out there knows a better way of testing XState, I would be very happy to know, because I'm kind of just learning as we go here. Part of why I'm doing these Code with Swizz live streams is because it's an excuse for me to figure things out and to play around. Now, why is this not happening? Let's add a debugger statement here. Great, my video is lagging. That's great. Great, so the video is lagging because my computer is a $3,000 piece of trash, apparently. That there isn't much I can do about that, unfortunately. So we have changes is authenticating to true. Now the next step we need to do, it's not even using that much CPU today. I don't know why the video would be lagging. Oh well, it is using a lot of CPU. Okay, so we've got that. Now, let's try to debug this. How do I inspect break? Is that how I do that? So I should know. How do I run yarn test with a with an inspector attached. Yarn test jest with node inspector. How do I see what's going on here? Troubleshooting, how to debug jest tests, arts engineering, node inspect jest. So I have to run it manually. Node inspect break, node modules, auth reducer dot spec. Let's see. So we've got that. Now we go into the inspector. What are the settings saying for my machine? Or for the stream at least? Okay, so we go into the inspector. Let's see, play, get to the debugger statement. No, you're not gonna get to the debugger statement? Come on, computer. Okay, so the debugger doesn't seem to be doing anything. That's great. What if we console log the state? Will that make it work? Let's see. Can I console log this shit? I need to see what you're getting, computer. And also, if we look at the state machine, it starts in the unauthenticated state. So I should be able to run login afterwards. And I am. And I get all of this stuff. So I do get the state. But what is the state doing is the question. What are you doing, Mr. Computer? This was working just before. Why did I go and change shit? What is the context that we get on the transition? Let's see. So it's gonna run the jest tests and spit out what the state machine context on the transition from the unauthenticated to the authenticating state, in theory, once it gets to that eventually. Okay, so we do get the thing. Why is this not working? How do you write tests for XState? Because it's kind of ridiculous that they're making it so hard. So I have the actual context and it says it's changing to true, but it doesn't seem to. Maybe is there a way to run a check after interpreting machines, identifying state nodes, final state, packages, patterns? How do I test this shit? Because what I need to do is figure out what can we run after the action. Let's see, activities, actions, configuration, done, events. What is done? Meta, next events to JSON to strings, transitions. What is done? Let's see. Done, state definition, done, whether invoking machines, done, data, the invoke async flow, on done, take when the invoked promise resolves. Because I guess what I'm noticing is that we run this twice let's see, what is the console, what is the state here? Console log saved context. And here we're going to say transition context. Let's see, yarn test auth reducer spec. When the transition we're going to see the difference between the transition context and the context that we have once the stuff is supposedly done, or at least when we're testing it. So what I'm going to see here is whether this is asynchronous and we're testing at the wrong part of the life cycle. Okay, so god damn it. I was doing the stupidest thing ever. I was not calling the right I was not testing the correct variable. Great, which means we can now check the other one and go with a similar state. So we're going to do const state is interpreted auth machine with context, where is authenticating is set to true. And we're going to say the saved context here, saved context becomes state.context, and we're going to send logout, and we're going to expect is authenticating to be false. But I don't think it's going to work because saved authenticating context equals context. Okay, now let's try running that, and I think it's going to I think this test is going to fail because what was I gonna say? It's going to fail because the logout action is not available on the unauthenticated state, and let's run it again, and XState is going to say you're not allowed to make that transition. So we're going to see if that's true. And if that's true, then we need to figure out how to get state machines into the correct state. How do I force it into a state for testing? Yes. So it's failing because you cannot log out here. Can you? Let's see. Console log transition, and we're going to print state, run that again, and let's see. So auth reducer spec is running. Oh, I did not set this. It's running, and it's gonna tell us what is happening. Okay, so the transition did run. Apparently, is auth unauthenticated state value unauthenticated transition. So that's our state, but it doesn't seem to be really doing anything. Event type logout. How do I see if the let's console log the context afterwards. Let's see what it says. Console log saved context, and we'll see what the context tells us, or actually like the meta state of our state machine, if that's what you want to call it. So this is going to tell us what? Come on, computer. Okay, so is authenticating is still set to true, which is wrong. And we know the transition did run, but let's see if the stop authenticating action managed to run. Console log stop authenticating action. Did that action run? And I think none of this is the problem I'm trying to the problem I'm trying to figure out right now is whether we can like first of all, why is XState not telling me that I'm trying to do make a transition that's not technically possible? And secondly, how can we convince it to make that transition anyway, so that we can test these things? Okay, so let's see, XState init in specific state. How do I do that? The transition did run. States interpreting machines set initial state dynamically at runtime. Dynamic initial state with cards. Okay, let's see. States interpreting machines. That's the interpreter. Yeah. State transitions. Start, send events, service stop, sending events. Yes. How do I, if the service is not initialized, that is, if service start wasn't called yet, events will be deferred. Patched events, tip transitions on transition. Yeah, starting and stopping. How do I start it in a custom interpreters? No, we don't need that. Notes. Okay, so it looks like we're gonna have to send the login action first. So we can say send the login action to get it into the right state. And then we'll see what we get afterwards. Come on. Oh, come on, computer. Now I can't type anymore. There we go. So I'm running the auth reducer spec again. And what's it complaining? Did you mean transitions? Okay, let's do it again. Send login, send logout. So this is where, this is one of my pain points with XState, is that it's really annoying to test because it's too secure. Like all of the assurances that XState gives you are actually super in the way when you're trying to test this stuff and make sure that it's working correctly. Really? Okay. Let's do it this way then. State send login. State send logout. Will that make it work? Describe start authenticating. Describe error. Come on. Come on, computer. Nope, still wrong. Okay, so I'm going to skip that test because I guess it's not a super useful test anyway, since we can't make it work. So we're going to say that we are describing the what are we describing here? Describe the login function, I guess. Describe login, which changes is authenticating to true. And what else does it need to do? It used to do a bunch of other things. But we don't need that anymore. So what we do need, here we have stop authenticating, which was an old action that we had. Let's go here with describing login fully, and we're going to change this test instead. So we're going to run only this test. Describe only login. Come on. Describe logout. Describe login. I'm going to comment this out because maybe it's not actually useful. And now we're gonna go here and create a new state machine. Yes. Come on. Const state auth action, context auth state. So we can start here. Right. We have the initial state, which should be, let's call it like this. Let's say this is initial context. We have the current time, and then we're going to have an action. But first, we're going to say const state equals. What does state equals? Right. So we need to to test this, we're gonna have to set state every time to a blank, to a new interpreter, send it the login action, and then test the various side effects that the login action is supposed to have. So let's try that. Const initial context. Then here, when we add the user to local storage, we can say, come on, let me tab. We're gonna say that const state equals a new interpret auth machine with context. We said initial context. It's not auth machine. Of course it's auth machine. Cannot find name auth machine. Did you mean auth machine? What? Am I going blind here? Those two are, that is the same thing, right? Auth machine and auth machine. With context, we interpret and we start. Come on. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna copy paste because I can't tell. Oh, I wrote auth machine. Great. So we have auth machine. We start the state machine. We clear local storage, and then we send. And we're gonna say state.send the login action. And when the login action runs, we are expecting that the local storage gets updated, and yeah, so we're expecting that. We're going to say const state equals get state machine, or let's call it init state machine here. I'm going to write a function called init state machine, which is going to return this stuff. Return, no, const state equals, and we return state. Okay, no, come on. Okay, great. We are adding user to local storage, so that should pass. Then we're expecting it to set the user, which we're gonna have to do what? I'm gonna say const state equals init state machine.